My name is Rich Butterworth, and as you know, I am responsible for customer support at Hardtech Plus. And we started this live broadcast with the idea of attempting to provide some useful content for all the teachers out there, and we hope that we're accomplishing that goal. Tonight, we're going to have, as we did last week, we'll be raffling off a 2.0 sensor. So all you need to do to be eligible for that is put your name, your email in the live chat as we go through the evening. Tonight, we have two very, very special guests that we'll introduce you to a little bit later. But we're going to start. I'm going to turn it over to Chris and his, we'll call it educational team, and have them give you guys an update of what's going on in their district as far as distance learning is concerned. So welcome again, and thanks for joining us. Okay, Chris, take it away.
Thank you, Rich. We really appreciate everything that you and Hardtech are doing to bring this team together on a weekly basis. We envision this being probably the last stream this evening, but with the current set of circumstances going on around the country, I'm assuming this stream will go on for many weeks to come. So feel free to always check back in to the Hardtech YouTube page, as these videos will be posted there. You can watch them at your leisure anytime you have an opportunity to. Feel free to listen to them. To piggyback on what Rich said, Hardtech Plus is nice enough to give us a certificate of attendance. So if your district or state will be able to take those hours and put them towards your professional development opportunities, Rich will provide you with that. All you have to do is send them your email. So thanks again, Brian and Brad, for being here. We're about a week away. We hope that these two gentlemen with us tonight are able to be the new SHAPE Teachers of the Year next week. So hopefully this broadcast next week will also be a party celebration. Tonight, like Rich said, we have Ross Chakrian here, which is actually one of my 5-star PE team members. So I'm very excited to have him here. He's the king of resources, especially elementary resources, but everything he provides is top-notch, standards-based, research-driven, and it's all free for everybody that he puts out. So really follow Ross. I'm sure most of you do who are joining in with us tonight. I'm in New York, teacher of law on Long Island. Been teaching there for 10 years. We got word this week, and we're now transitioning for the rest of the school year to be online. So as far as our district goes, next week starts what are considered office hours for all the regular classes. All the students' homeroom classes and core subjects will be going to twice a week, 1 hour at a time office hours where any student can pop in. And then as far as phys ed goes, up until this point, we've had an activity log where students have been tracking all their activities. I've been doing that in combination with Google Classrooms and the Seesaw app. And students are able to communicate with me through there. I'm able to push and take their stuff back when needed. And then phys ed will be holding office hours in my district starting the middle of May. So we're kind of staggering it, how the students get introduced to these office hours, especially at the elementary level. We're taking it slow and steady. And then our specials, our art, phys ed, and music will then combined in the month of May, where we'll hold our own office hours. But that's really all to just meet with students face to face, keep it real casual, more talking to them, how they're doing, finding out about their social emotional health, and really keeping them as motivated as we can via this platform. So once again, thanks everybody for being here tonight. Really excited.
Hey guys, this is Brian Hull, one of the phys ed ambassadors for Hardtech. I'm an 8-year teacher out of Denver, Colorado. And then also kind of what Chris mentioned, a Shape America Teacher of the Year for 2020, which I'm excited and humbled to announce. Out here in Denver, we are officially done for the year in terms of face-to-face instruction and learning. So we're going to be taking the rest of the year and doing the best we can with virtual and e-learning with our students. A little bit what Chris just said, I'm also doing office hours 2 days a week. I'm required to have 2 50-minute sessions with students who will want to pop in just for some emotional support or some academic support in phys ed. And actually about 5 minutes ago, I just received an email from one of the instructional superintendents of Denver Public Schools, and it looks like they have a different approach what they want to do for grades in secondary, specifically 9th through 12th grade. And it looks like students are going to be given the choice of whether they want to take a credit, no credit, or if they want to take a letter grade. I guess they were doing a lot of surveying across the community, and they think the most equitable thing to do would be to give the students a choice whether they want to increase their GPA or if they want to just take a credit, no credit for graduation purposes. So that's the quick update out here in Denver Public Schools in Denver.
Yeah, and I'm Brad Hall. I am obviously the worst half of Brian Hall. I am was also the 2020 Shape America Central District Middle School PE Teacher of the Year, so I've been very humbled with that experience. Brian's covered most of it since we're obviously both in Denver, but in my district, one thing that I really enjoy is every Monday is professional development / planning / catch-up day for students. So it gives kids some time to catch up on any missing work if they feel overwhelmed, and it also gives us teachers time to plan and experiment with different types of technologies. So personally, I've been really emphasizing the physical fitness throughout this remote learning since students are getting hounded with all the screen time. So I'm trying to get creative on them to at least take an hour away from the screen and get physically active. And it's kind of like what you're doing, Chris, in regards to have activity logs, students documenting what they've done and reflect on their performance. It's been a tough time, but I think we're all getting through it. And when it comes to office hours, yeah, we obviously have to be available as well. With my district, it sounds like at the secondary level, based on what their grade was before remote learning, as long as they are actively engaged in the remote learning, they can't get anything lower than that grade or what they had before remote learning. But right now we're all trying to define what actively engaged is. And I think we're going to get more answers with that as well.
That goes to the same thing in my district. We are pushing forward, like you said, with the grade they had prior to remote learning. If they are active in submitting items, they would move forward with that same grade. But as far as that grade looks, it really is just going to translate to a pass-fail. And that's all subjects across the board, K through 12. So everything is going to be pass-fail, every subject for the fourth quarter at the high school, middle school level, and at the elementary level, we're in our third trimester. So for this last grading period, it's all going to be pass-fail, which is, a huge movement away from what we're used to doing. So that's
absolutely.
We don't know what that's going to look like or anything. Interestingly enough, my wife is an art teacher in New York City, and New York City actually has an art blueprint and a physical education blueprint, but the art blueprint has a digital media side to it, which actually outlines fairly well the prerequisite skills that a student would need in order to be successful on an online situation. And it actually gives some scoring and some rubric things towards what those could be considered. And then they move into really the content area of digital media and art. And then they break that down as well as some skills and levels of performance. So I was thinking about using that and trying to transfer those ideas into the physical education realm, because prerequisites are prerequisites. So they're going to need to know how to upload and download the Google Docs and edit things. So that's not going to change anywhere. And then moving some more of that art technical language into a phys ed realm, that's what I'm hoping to be working on this upcoming week. So then I can at least have something to show my parents and say, this is all we're really looking for here. If your student can do this a couple of times over the course of the next few weeks, that would be fantastic. But we're keeping it really low key, and it's obviously a huge stressor on everybody. And if you have children at home, it's even more of a stressor. So we just want to keep it as fun and family active as it can be from the phys ed side of it.
Yeah, and real quick before we get started, you kind of mentioned a new unique statement in that if there's any blessing in terms of what we're going through now, I think it's the opportunity students and teachers have right now to learn technology and to kind of get a semi just gist on how to work it, what it does, everything else. Because a lot of teachers in the past, they were just, no, I'm going to stay away from this because I'm not tech savvy at all. So if there's anything that exists here of positivity, I think it's people are starting to get their feet wet a little bit on what the tech world is.
Yep.
Definitely. Well, I think we're ready for our first guest tonight, who is huge on Twitter, Mr. CPE, or Ross Chakrian from Maryland. He's Anne Arundel County in Maryland, a physical education teacher at the elementary level. Relatively new to his school now, but not new to the elementary scene. I'm sure everybody who's listening and will listen knows Ross. And welcome, my friend. Thank you for coming on tonight.
Thanks for having me, guys. What's up?
Thanks, Ross.
Happy to be here. Thanks for the Heart Tech Plus team for putting this together. This is awesome. And any ways that we can kind of reach out to teachers to kind of connect and be able to collaborate in different ways, I think right now especially is very powerful, and because we're all kind of in the same boat, and it's a boat that no one's ever rowed in before. So we're trying to figure this out as we go. And this is something that I think can definitely help people out there. So I really appreciate all of us coming together and Heart Tech Plus for this platform to do so.
Yes, thank you. And if anyone has any questions for Ross or the team or Narissa when she comes on next, please feel free to put them in the chat. We'll put them up on the screen and get them answered as best we can. We have 3 other episodes out there before tonight, so that's all on the YouTube channels as well. Feel free to take a look at any of those. So Ross, if you just want to get us started, a little bit about your background, where you are today, and how you're feeling, how everybody's doing by you.
Yeah, so I live in Central Maryland. I've been here ever since I went down this way for college. I actually grew up in Long Island, New York, in the town right next to Chris, funny enough. And we kind of met later on in life in a different way. But I went to school down at Salisbury University here in Maryland on the Eastern Shore, really close to Ocean City, if you're familiar with the area. Did my undergrad down there. Then I went out to the University of Northern Iowa, which is where I met Chris. And we were in a very, very kind of innovative program out there called the Polar Scholar Program, which really emphasized using technology in different ways to engage our students and be able to really kind of see what the possibilities were for using tech in PE in lots of different ways. So out there together, he and I really got our basis using heart rate monitors on a daily basis, which was awesome. And using lots of other forms of technology in PE too. So using like PowerPoints in daily lessons, projectors in daily lessons. Back then we didn't have tablets or iPhones because this was 2009, 2010. So it was actually like pocket PCs or Palm Pilots, those kinds of things. So we're doing assessments on there, which is pretty cool. And we've been, he and I have been in the tech game for a long time now. We've always stayed connected, not only as colleagues, but now we're, together in a little business enterprise, 5-star PE, where we can do professional development with some of our other team members, Tony Loomis, who's a former National High School Teacher of the Year, Doug Hallberg, who's a former National Middle School Teacher of the Year, and our other good friend, Dan Govrish, who teaches at the university level up in Minnesota. But I've been teaching in Central Maryland now for the last 10 years, and I was in a district for my first 9, which was a different district that I'm in now. And at the end of last school year, last spring, I decided to leave, and I took a job actually at the university level at a school right outside of Baltimore called Towson University within their PE teacher education program, preparing the new kind of crop of PE teachers coming out. And I was there in the fall, and it was a great experience, but I think I missed the little ones too much. That's kind of where my heart lies, and I think I needed to get back there. So I actually filled a leave replacement mid-year, which was like end of January or so. I filled a leave replacement in the county that I'm in now, and I was there for about 10 weeks and kind of just starting to feel like I had my legs underneath of me, and kind of getting to know the kids a little bit, and was working with a very different population than I worked in the past. And then this whole thing with COVID hit, and now, here I am at home trying to figure out what I can do from afar to help these children, with PE through distance learning. So my journey has been kind of a crazy one this year. 2020 is off to a rambunctious start. I think that's putting it lightly. But like I said, we're trying to all kind of be in this boat together and working together and being able to collaborate in ways like this is awesome. So as far as things in my district specifically right now, how we're handling distance learning, this is now, tomorrow we'll be wrapping up our second real week of distance learning. And it's kind of an interesting, dynamic, because hearing what other people are doing in other states and other districts, even here in my state in Maryland, it's kind of different all over the board. And it's just interesting having these conversations. But PE for me, basically, what I'm being asked to do is to kind of push out one assignment a week to my students, which I've been doing over the last 2 weeks. And right now, as of right now, we're still required to grade as we kind of normally were before this whole thing came down. And there was actually a board of ed meeting in my district last night, and grading policy was added to the agenda, but I think they're still deliberating on that as to whether or not things are going to change. But it's kind of off to a bumpy start, I think, to be expected with everything going on. Just kind of like, I'm sure all of you out there that are teaching, there's a lot of bumps in the road, especially because at the elementary level, the kids in particular, they need so much help in order to be able to do this from, the parents or guardians at home, that, you have to really kind of think about the things that you're pushing out to them. You don't want it to be an added stressor to the situation, because Lord knows there's already enough stress on everyone's plates with what they have going on at home and the world outside their home right now. But also, especially for, the elementary people that might be listening or seeing this later on, kind of putting things in language that they understand. So that way it's easier for them to connect with and easier for them to do. So I'm sure I'll probably share a couple of resources that you might find valuable here, and things that I've done already. Hopefully that can kind of be, of value to you, and we'll kind of, I'm sure, see that as we go on today.
Awesome. Definitely. How many students in your building that you're servicing? And do you have any kind of face-to-face time that you're required to do on a weekly basis? How is that?
Yeah. So right now I'm in a school that's about probably like 400 kids, which is a really great number. Pretty much like 2 classes per grade level, which is awesome, except for kindergarten. Kindergarten has 7 classes, because we actually this year absorbed the kindergarten classes from a neighboring school, because their school was getting remodeled, and because they had to kind of shift where those kids were during that time, we took the kindergartners from there. So that's kind of why we have so many of that grade. But it's a really tight-knit, small school community where I'm at right now, which I really love. It's awesome. And it's a very supportive school community, which is great. And I think that when you're in a situation like that, it's just really beneficial to kind of make sure that you're keeping in line with the things that you do, in order to maintain those kind of relationships and build those relationships as you go. And what was the second part of your question, Chris? Sorry, I forgot.
No problem. Face-to-face time, you holding some sort of office hours or something? I know that's coming down the pike for me.
Yeah, so office hours, we were kind of just talking about this earlier before we went live here on YouTube. That's kind of the best part of my day, I think, so far, has been me offering office hours. And we were told that we're not required as cultural arts people, teachers, to do things through Google Meet. We're doing things through Google Classroom. That's kind of what my district is doing. But I've kind of taken upon myself to say, I think that social emotional piece is huge. That's a big part of my philosophy when I'm face-to-face with my students, kind of making sure that we're really focusing on those relationships with each other and how we treat each other, and the character concepts behind everything that we do in the gym. So for my office hours, I've been kind of offering every other day about a half hour for each grade level to kind of drop in. So kindergartners today, for example, they had a half hour if they wanted to stop in, then followed by my first graders, they had a half hour with a different link through Google Meet, and then second graders, the half hour after that. So I'm required to do like an hour and a half of office hours each day. So today was primary, and then tomorrow I'll go back to doing the same thing with third, fourth, and fifth. And that's been the best part of my days, honestly. I usually get a couple of kids, at a time in there, I just stop in, and it's nothing really formal. I mean, when I type the announcement into Google Classroom and I post it at the given time, I kind of say, hey, if you have any questions about this week's assignment, whatever it might be, feel free to pop in. Or if you just kind of want to come in and say hi or just talk or see your friends, feel free to do that too. So it's been a really kind of low key, not like, stressful kind of situation. And I know our homeroom classroom teachers where I'm at, they're doing things through Google Meet, where there's a lot of instruction involved, and they're kind of delivering content that way and their lessons that way, which is great. It's, stuff that they need to do, obviously, for the continuity of learning. But I don't want that to, always be the focus, especially because of my own beliefs about PE that's very social in nature, and it should be very social in nature. Giving them this time to kind of just drop in and kind of see their friends in a different way that they might not be able to do otherwise is a huge important piece kind of just to what I want to provide to them during this time. So that's kind of how I've been approaching office hours. I've had probably 6 kids in there at the most. I have one core group of 3rd graders in particular. I think we're going to probably do like a little art project tomorrow when we get back on there. So Chris, Sarah will probably be pretty happy about that. They were all like showing off the slime that they were building the other day. And I was like, oh, well, what do I need to make that? So they told me. So I think tomorrow they're going to kind of walk me through how to make slime. So just like little things like that, are things that are going to make this experience memorable for them. And then when we get back to school and in face-to-face and normalcy, whenever it might be, that's a huge relationship builder that we can kind of, continue on from there. So I see that as a huge important piece, especially for me, because I was only there for about 10 weeks before this whole thing kind of came down. And the last thing I want is for them to kind of just, out of sight, out of mind, who's this guy, Mr. C, when we do get back to face-to-face, and then it's like I have to start all over again. So by me providing this opportunity for them, it kind of kills a lot of birds with one stone. So I'm happy to do it. It's been really great with those office hours. So if you have the chance to do it, I would really encourage you to do so.
That's awesome. When thinking about your assignments, I know you have to give one a week. Do you put a due date at the end of that week? Is it kind of open-ended? Is there no due date? Because I know anytime in our district, when you put a due date out there, and even to the point where our principals had put out a lot of information in one email regarding many of our specials, let's call it, including art, phys ed, music, FLES. We do foreign language in the elementary school. So as soon as that goes out, everyone's feathers gets up, and then you start seeing that pushback. And obviously everyone's crazed right now. They don't want to see those due dates. How are you handling that aspect of it? Yeah.
So far, these first 2 weeks have kind of just been like the directive given to us from the higher ups in our district has been, the focus is just kind of like the first couple weeks of school, right? You kind of want to make it engaging and make it fun for them, and not put a lot of demands on them right away. So these first 2 weeks in particular, I've pushed out things that are, super fun, but challenging, things I think the kids have enjoyed, and the feedback that I've gotten back so far has been just that. But as far as due dates go, these first 2 assignments, I don't think I've had a due date on them. And then starting next week is going to be the first week where I kind of push out something that's going to be graded, even though I might not agree with that in my own philosophy right now. But, there's things that you have to do sometimes that you don't want to do. But, obviously you have to be very flexible with the grading. I mean, with the due date at this point in time, because from our staff meeting that we just had today, there's plenty of families in my school community that just don't have any adult home at all with them during the time where they could really work on this kind of stuff that we're pushing out. So maybe they can only do things on the weekend. So if you make it due Friday afternoon, you push it out Monday morning at 8 a.m., you make it due Friday. Well, those kids are already behind, right? You're already kind of excluding them. So I think I'm going to kind of make due dates once things are for the graded assignments that I have to push out, probably 2 weeks after I first kind of send them out. So that way they have plenty of time to work on it. And even after that, it's kind of adjusting the due date. I think we really need to be flexible right now in our time, and kind of really be working with parents. We want to, especially, to build that ally with them. Parents, when they're on your side, they're a very powerful ally in public schools. So I think a terrible approach right now would be to kind of be very strict and rigid and be like, no, this is the way you have to do it. yada, 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 because you don't know what everyone's going through at home right now. So I don't think that would benefit anybody at all, especially us in the PE world where we stand in the education totem pole as things are right now. So I think being flexible across the board is vital and just kind of very humane and kind of, holistic to be thinking about as the whole school-wide approach right now. So I think that's something to be said for sure.
Awesome. And I know you're big into the creating of materials and items that could be found around the house that students may have access to, create them yourselves at home and then utilize them. I know I had some talks with Jordan from Gopher today. They're actually looking to put together some ideas of what would be considered a care package if you were the phys ed teacher, to send a care package to each student in your building. What might that care package look like? And we had talked about something, they might not have something to inflate a ball. So it has to be something easily inflatable, like a beach ball, tennis ball, handball, some sort of paddle, resistance bands, things that could be in that care package that didn't take a lot of setup. But at the same time, and I think this goes into Chad's question, and hello, Monica Hernandez, and hello, Chad, again. Dr. Killian was on last week. Thanks for tuning in again today. How are you making it appropriate and modifying things? And of course, you're giving ideas to your students. So now, if you just want to talk about anything you've done and share any of your resources on the screen, it's all up to you now.
Yeah. That's a great question, Chad. It's great to see you on here, man. I think especially at the elementary level, we have to be really cognizant of the language that we're using and what we're kind of doing and pushing out to them. So pictures are huge at the elementary level. That's just an easy way kind of across the board, regardless of kind of whatever language, your students might be speaking. I know I have a pretty high ESOL population at my school. So kind of pushing out things with pictures always are great. Videos so far, I've been doing a lot of video stuff the first kind of 2 weeks. So they can see that concrete example of what things might be. And then they can kind of do it on their own. And just kind of like, I'm trying to ease them into it, especially the younger grades, K1, 2, we're talking about, really being cognizant of those things in particular. The older kids can obviously do a little bit more, and I'm going to expect a little bit more out of them. But I mean, just for example, I'm going to share my screen right now. So I guess.
Can we get ready to share?
Yeah.
Get ready for this here.
I'm ready.
All right. Tell me if you guys can see that. 3, 2, 1.
There you go.
You're in. Rich, you could remove me if you'd like.
I'm going to.
Thank you.
Can we see it? Let's see. Okay. Just so, some examples of what I've been talking about right there. This is my Twitter page, so you can follow me on Twitter at Mr. CPE. Everything that I've been posting on here, are resources that you can easily access for free through the links that I'm providing. Just stuff like this. So this is what I'm pushing out next week, actually. So there's a little snippet right here. We're going to get ready to start our first kind of distance learning unit during this time, which is going to be balancing. So I'm going to have my students in kindergarten and first grade kind of explore different bases of support. So you can kind of see what I'm talking about here from the visuals already. Having the words with the pictures is always important. So I'll kind of play a little snippet of this here.
So I have 5 things touching the floor. 1 hand, 2 hands, 3 is a foot, 4 is this foot, and a knee. That makes 5. So once I have my 5 body parts, my 5 bases of support, now I'm trying to hold myself still for 5 Mississippi seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done.
And this part kind of goes into their own. So it's kind of an example.
What body parts are you going to use?
And then kind of using like a divergent approach here, right? Not telling them what body parts to use, but kind of letting them explore with different body parts as long as they have 3 touching the ground.
Hold it still. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and done.
and then kind of a reflection piece right after. So kind of getting them to think, all right, what body parts did I use? So point to what you use. So maybe they use 2 feet and 1 hand, so they can kind of use this time to kind of identify what they use, to kind of have that cognitive piece tied into it. All right. And then it's asking them to kind of use the same number of bases of
Think
support here.
first. What body parts are you going to use? How can you make it look different than last time?
But now kind of using that divergent thinking approach, make it different. So if you use 2 hands or 2 feet and a hand before, can you use different body parts and make it look different this time? So
Get ready to hold it still.
things like that.
5.
So that's just kind of one example. And the full video, that was just like a little snippet here, but the full video, the link's there on my my YouTube page. Links to that. Some other things. Let's see. Here, so this is a good example too. All right, the visual piece. So I've been using a lot of visuals because I have students with special needs. So they have a special program at my school where it's kind of a regional-based program. So a lot of students from the surrounding area that maybe don't have these programs at their home school, they come to my school, and they kind of communicate in different ways. So I've been using what's called Symbol Sticks. It's an online program. I think it's a paid kind of program that you have to kind of invest in, but the images that you get are great. They're super clean, they're super nice. Everything is transparent background, so it's easy to kind of insert and whatever and make it look clean. And this is all language. These pictures are pretty much their language that they use to communicate, because a lot of them are nonverbal. So if I can use that as my images already, it benefits not only those students that use this regularly, but obviously my students that have, the ability to speak and read and those kinds of things. Just giving them a picture, it helps them as well. So it's kind of being very inclusive in terms of the equity piece. Everyone's getting what they need in different ways here. So this is just like an indoor scavenger hunt that I pushed out this week, just something fun for them to do, to get them moving around the house a little bit. And I've had great kind of feedback on this already. So just kind of assigning different points for different columns. And I kind of modified this off of a guy by the name of Chance Condren, who teaches up in Pennsylvania. So he kind of pushed something that looks similar to this out a little while ago, but I kind of wanted to make my own twist on it. And, kind of just getting to go indoor scavenger hunt, find something that's a shape of the square, kind of stay with the shape theme here in this 10-point column, 20-point column. I kind of stayed with the color theme, and then kind of got a little bit outside the box with these 30 and 40-point columns here. But just tied to that, just to kind of see, hey, what was their feedback and what did you actually collect? I used the Google form tied to this, and that's been the best thing that I found so far, and the simplest thing in terms of getting work back has been using Google Forms. So this is kind of the form that I made. You can kind of already see I had 83 responses from my students this week. So they're pretty engaged with this, which is awesome. So always set it up kind of like this, so you can kind of easily sort this data on the back end. What's your first name? What's your last name? And then always put this in here for their classes. So they're selecting all of that. And then once you kind of collect their responses at the end, you can sort this on the back end through Google Sheets, which is really easy. And then again, it's just kind of like a digitized version, basically. So now they're telling me, hey, which of the 10-point items were you able to find from the list below during your scavenger hunt? So there's those same pictures, right? So they can easily just kind of click on this and kind of tell me if they were able to find something that was the shape of a triangle, if they found something that was the shape of a circle. And then same thing for the 20-point items. So again, keeping that consistent, that language, the pictures consistent across the board, I think has been huge for my students. It's very, very beneficial for them for lots of different reasons that we talked about before. And I can't recommend Google Forms enough for things like this. You want to keep it easy. You want to keep it stress-free for them. Yeah, maybe it's not the best indicator of what they're learning right now. Although you can certainly use this to kind of, go more into the affective responses or even cognitive-based, like quiz type questions with this if you wanted to. But like I said, I'm trying to keep it light for these first 2 weeks. Next week, tied to that video that you saw before, with the basis of support, I actually have some pictures in here that ask them to tell me which body parts I'm using in my balances. So that's kind of more of a cognitive piece to it, but this is kind of just for fun. But you kind of get the idea, I think. And then here I gave them a little chance to give me some feedback. Did you enjoy this activity? Why or why not? So they were able to kind of give me a little bit of a short answer there. And then, hey, would you like to do an activity like this again with some new things to find? And I would say so far of the response I've gotten, it's like 98% of them have said, yes, they want to do something like this again. So, you know, asking the students what they need during this time and what they want to do, I think is powerful. Gives them that autonomy, right? It shows that, hey, you know, it's not all about me right now. I don't want this to be me throwing things on you. What are things that you want to do? So with that feedback, I definitely think I'm going to kind of do this and revisit it again, maybe in a couple of weeks after we kind of finish our first unit, and kind of use this as something to kind of break up maybe that, like, you know, more focused instruction, I guess you can call it, that are going to be our units. But that's kind of something that I've done already so far.
Now your entire building or district K-5 is all Google Classrooms?
Yeah, so we're using Google Classroom exclusively pretty much across the board with everything. And, you know, some of the classrooms have kind of used that, particularly the older kids have used that more often in their homeroom classes than the younger kids. So they're more familiar with it in the older grades. But yeah, we're Google Classroom across the board. And just a couple other things too that I'd like to share out. So our website here, if you go to 5starphysed.com, basically everything that I've been posting on my Twitter feed, if you go across here at the top to our resources section, and then you click on this little red link right here, 5-Star PE share folder, it'll basically take you right into a Google Drive where all the stuff that I've been pushing out that you see on my Twitter feed, this is kind of where it's all housed. So you can kind of see everything that I've been pushing out here. So those indoor scavenger hunts that you saw there. This is some stuff that I'm going to do with my older kids, kind of like almost like a, I guess, individualized project-based learning kind of thing this coming week. So their first unit coming up is going to be kind of exploring striking with implements. So their first assignment this coming week for week 3 is going to be make your own striking implement project. So here's the materials that they need, just recyclable stuff that they probably have around the house, you know, pretty common items, step-by-step kind of, hey, here's what you need to build it. And then they're going to kind of just explore different ways that they can use it. So I made like a little intro video for them about what striking means, what an implement is, and kind of giving them some examples of, you know, some different activities or sports they might use striking with an implement, that skill in, and kind of give them some time to explore what they can do with the implement that they make. And then from there, kind of following week, go into, for the older kids, continuing with that same unit. Some different challenges. So can you use your striking implement like a hockey stick, like a golf club putter, like a tennis racket, and some specific challenges to do with that. And then kind of giving it the point value. I find my kids are really motivated with some kind of, like, you know, competition aspect. So whether it's like, you know, they can go against someone else in their house to see how many points they can get, or they can kind of try and beat themselves. And then it's got all these kind of video, all those challenges are in a video here for YouTube. So again, that visual piece, right? Especially for my students that that really need that instead of just the language. That doesn't always kind of, you know, get digested the best and processed the best in their brains. So, you know, challenge one by one, you know. So use your hockey stick, dribble a ball, a rolled up sock along the floor from one side of the ring to another. Challenge 2 with a hockey stick, right? Make a zigzag pathway and then a curvy pathway. And then you can kind of explore that on your own. But so, I mean, all the stuff that I push out on Twitter, like I said, if you go to our 5-Star PE website and you click this link, it'll go there. It's got everything that you would need that I pushed out so far that I've created. So those are just some of the things that I've done or I'm planning to do with my students. So like I said, the visuals are huge, so definitely make that a big part, especially for the elementary kids. But even I would say for middle school and high school, it's just as important.
Awesome. Ross, can I pause you there?
Yeah.
Narissa has children of her own, and she needs to take care of them in a little bit. Would she be able to come on?
For sure.
Thank you so much. Awesome resources. Couple Shannon's here tonight in our chat. Dr. Pennington. Monica also had a comment. Shannon's using a lot of your stuff even at the high school level, so she thanks you for all of your stuff there. And she also mentioned that it can be used with ELL students. And now I want to welcome Narissa. Sorry, I'm a little stuck on your last name. If you want to introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you're up to these days. Thank you for coming on tonight. It's great.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. My name is Narissa Stahl Holmgren, and I am a PE teacher in Denver Public Schools at George Washington High School. And I've been there for 17 years. And I also teach a course called AVID. It stands for Advancement via Individual Determination. It's a course for first-generation college students, and it's a 4-year college prep course. And I've been doing that class for the last 5 years, and I currently have the freshman class. And lately, what I have been doing is a lot of online teaching. I've been posting a lot of videos on Flipgrid, which is a platform that I can connect to Google Classroom, which allows me to post about a 10-minute workout, and then the students can do it, and then they can give me feedback. And their feedback can be through text messages, or they can do it on a video. So that's been really helpful for me, and I believe my students are liking it as they give me that feedback. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I know you're an expert in self-care. So I know I'm a little inexperienced on that. I know I need some self-care, but if you just explain what you do, how you deliver that to your students and your fellow colleagues there in Denver, that'd be great.
Yeah. Thank you for calling me an expert. I do what I can. I apologize. My son is yelling at me.
Not a problem.
I do what I can because I think what's happening in education, and I've been here for almost 20 years, is I know it sounds cliche, but a lot of us continuously pour from an empty cup, and we give and we give and we give to others when we actually should be giving to ourselves. And we want to show up as the best person we can to our students, but we're not, because we're not taking that time to put ourselves first. So in the past, I've been the wellness champion for my school. DPS does a nice job with the program that they have here for us. But I got to a point where I knew it was too much for me, so I gave that to somebody else. But what I like to do is, I think as educators, we need to change some of the habits that we're doing. I like to find people who inspire me, and I've kind of gotten on to the Rachel Hollis and Dave Hollis kick, if any of you have heard of them. They're doing a next 90-day challenge, which has been extremely helpful for me now during this time. But they're really good at you focusing on your habits. And as I think about this and self-care, for me as an educator, it has evolved through the years. And it also depends on the season that I'm in. So what it kind of looks like for me during the school year, if things were kind of regular, I get up early and I try to move my body for 30 minutes. And that just allows me to wake up my mind. It looks different on what I do. Sometimes I will walk our dog. Sometimes I will do yoga or a HIIT workout. It just kind of depends on what my plan is for that week. Another thing that I personally like to do is making sure that I eat good food and that I'm drinking a lot of water, more than I think I should be. In the past, I used to think like self-care was, let's do a spa day. But as I've been at this, I think what it is us changing our habits and finding something that's going to work well for us. Because what works well for me isn't going to work for everybody. So it's just reestablishing what that's going to be like for you.
Well, I know, especially me, I have 2 young children as well. So up at 5:15 to get ready for work. They may be up within 15 minutes. Fingers crossed they're up an hour after my wife and I. But if not, they're there with you up until the second you walk out the door, and then you come into an elementary building, in my case, and there's 300 of those same students ready for you. So that
Yes.
takes that toll all day, every day, and that cup is usually half full. So I think what you're saying is
Yeah.
more important now than ever.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think for us as educators, now is a good time to establish habits that we know that we can continue when school goes back into session regularly. And then that way we can bring our best authentic selves to our students, because we're constantly trying to have them show us their best selves, but we're not giving that to them. So I think now is a good time to kind of reestablish what you want to change and what you want to focus on about yourself. Because again, it's going to look different for everybody, and you really have to do what's going to work for you. For a lot of people, getting up at 5 a.m. isn't going to work, and that's okay. So where else could you fit in a workout? Where else could you fit in? Another thing that I like to do is a gratitude journal. I have a 5-minute journal where in the morning I spend 5 minutes, in the evening I spend 5 minutes. But just that way, you're starting your day strong and you're ending your day strong. And whatever happened in the middle, it no longer matters. I mean, we all have had those days where our student it'll take one student to change our mood. But then if you have the habit set in place, okay, I can flip this really quick, things will go better for you. And you'll, again, be that best self, that best teacher for your students.
I know for myself, what I ended up doing is, always being on your feet, and then coming home and being on your feet with your children till 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. I've moved an exercise ball into the gym. So if I ever do need a break, it will be just sitting on that exercise ball for a couple of seconds. And that will change me for the next 30 minutes at least. And it'll give me that extra energy that I would need anytime I'm feeling tired. I took that little, 30-second, 1-minute break on that exercise ball while students were involved. And then I'm able to get up and get back in the game with the kids. Because, at the elementary level, they need you in there and giving 100% all the time, or else they're not going to meet that level that you want to see out of them, like you just said.
Yeah. And sometimes, like Gretchen Rubin says, is sometimes you just need to do 10 quick jumping jacks just to re-energize, move your body, change your mind. And as PE teachers, we tell our students to do it, but a lot of us aren't doing that for ourselves. So again, it's just going back to that habit, find something, and it can be that something small, like you were just saying, to change your day and kind of change your mindset for the rest of your day.
Narissa, I have a question. Oh, go ahead, Bri. Bri, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Narissa, I know you and I were pretty good friends in Denver Public Schools, and we're always talking burnout. And
Yeah.
someone like me personally, I work, and I almost forget to take care of myself. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the things you wanted to push out in Denver Public Schools this year in terms of our district professional development days to kind of cure burnout?
Yeah, I think again we have to look at our lives and take notice on where we are lacking. And the one thing, a big push I wanted to have this school year was for us to focus on our physical, our mental, and even our social health. Those 3 things I think are so important. And simple things, for physical, we all know movement's good for you, but a lot of us are also forgetting about sleep. And it's setting that time, okay, I'm going to end my day at 10 p.m. or whatever day is going to work, or whatever time is going to work best for you. And then the mental piece is going to that gratitude journal. And maybe it's only writing down 5 things each day that you're thankful for, because there's so many things around us that bring us joy. And we sometimes have a tendency to focus on that one negative thing, because that one negative thing brings us down consistently. And then for the emotional, it's finding your community with people who are going to support you, people that you can go to when you have like that low in your day and you need somebody to kind of inspire you. And so finding your tribe in that social kind of piece of things. And I think, like Brian, we've talked about this a lot. I think it's finding like what you're willing and what you can put to the side and then intentionally show up for yourself. And intentionally show up for your family, your wife, your son, and then ultimately your students that you're working with. But it doesn't change overnight. This is something that I mean, again, my self-care routine has evolved over time, depending on which season I'm in too. So again, I think it's a good time for educators to kind of relook at like, okay, what can I do differently? And there's a really good Facebook page, Self-Care for Educators. And I don't know if this lady's on Twitter or not, but she puts a lot of good things out there that you can kind of take a step back and think, I need to re-examine that and take more time and consideration for this part of my life.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, a lot of this is like a lifestyle change and something that you used to always tell me, because I mean, our work can be very difficult. And I used to always just vent about how hard the students were, what my workload is. And you used to always tell me, well, what's one good thing that happened in a class for the day? And even something that simple kind of took weeks or months to get a habit of, because I mean, it's just like being physical educators. Turning one bad habit into a frequent habit takes a lot of repetitions.
It does, and it is that repetition. It's like retraining your mind a little bit to how can I flip this into something positive? Like, I think for us who are teachers, like we were made to do what we do, and there's a reason why we're here, but we also get caught up in the negative part of it, and that negative part isn't ever going to change. It's always going to be there. So how can you focus on the good things that you're doing? Because like, Brian, how many PE teachers are creating an app for their school during this time? Not a lot of people are doing that. So.
And then further down the line here, how has self-care, do you think, has extended your career right now? Do you think you'd be where you are right now, 20 years into your career, without doing self-care?
Absolutely not. I think that probably about 4 years ago, probably after I had my son. I mean, a lot of things come after you have a child, but I think I was just at this point where something had to change. And I think that's when I decided that I needed to do something different. And that's when I started to, okay, what can I change and how can I take care of myself? And for me, what has worked is getting up earlier in the morning. I'm even now in the quarantine, I'm waking up at 6 a.m. My body's just naturally used to that. But if you don't take that time, you're just going to burn out and fall into that trap of like, I can never get out of this. No, you can. You just have to do something. And that something, again, can be a habit. And maybe it's just reaching out to someone who you know can help you and who can inspire you to change something about the way you're doing things. Because what you're doing isn't working, because nobody likes that burnout feeling. It doesn't feel good for anybody. And I'm very fortunate that I have worked with another PE teacher who's been teaching for 40 years. And if it weren't for him, I probably still wouldn't be here. But he's been kind of that guiding light for me to make sure that he always asks me what I'm doing for myself and what I'm doing for my family. And I think that we forget to do that as educators because we're so concerned about the students. But we want to bring our best selves to our students.
And I'm sure with the self-care piece, as important as it is for us educators now, it's just as important for students to begin to understand that concept. My school is a survivor school, so we've had some instances of suicide. That pressure continues to build. the grades, the college pressure all continues to build, and the students really don't have that coping skill. So once we can find that coping skill, what works for us, or even a pathway to what could possibly work for them, then turnkeying that and sharing it to them will then open their horizons and allow them to think, this is something maybe I can try as well, and it will be a stress reliever for me. Because we hate to see students that are under so much pressure like this, where they really feel that there's no other way out, which we all know there's plenty of ways out other than the ultimate way out. So that's really what we need to move into the next phase as well, is that.
And I would like to add and kind of give a shout out to a program called Inner Strength. And I believe I know it's based out of Pennsylvania. And they brought a program into one of my classes last fall. And I highly encourage everybody to kind of take a look at it, because right now they're putting out videos for students to watch. Because I think once we get out of this, the social emotional piece for our students is going to be key. And in order for us, especially as physical educators, to be able to bring that content forth to our students, we need to find ways that we can take care of ourselves before we enter, because they're going to come with a whole invisible backpack of things that they're dealing with that they don't know how to manage and how to take care of.
And then Narissa, along these lines, are you doing anything specific during the virtual learning time for your students? This whole series is devoted for the e-learning life that we're all in. What are you doing specifically to kind of have your students understand the importance of caring for themselves?
Well, one thing I do is each week for specifically my AVID class, and I will roll this out to one of my Bodyworks classes next week, is having them write down 20 things that bring them joy or 20 things that make them happy. Because I think at this time, it's so easy for us to say, this sucks and I can't wait, but what are things that can bring you joy? And I'm also asking them, tell me a podcast that you can listen to while you're walking. Why don't you create a new playlist of good music that can get yourself outside, something that's going to bring yourself joy. And I'm also giving them videos to watch from the Inner Strength program. And a lot of it is some meditation. And whether the students do it or not, I don't know. But I think the ones who choose to do it will notice just their minds and their thoughts just kind of slowing down. And we're all in this together. And we're going to become better human beings because of this. And reminding them, and this is for all of us, that we were made to do hard things, and we can do this hard thing that we're in right now. But it's just finding the small things that bring you happiness and that bring you joy.
And it's almost an unprecedented opportunity that everyone has here to really find something that you enjoy doing, learn that, whether it be a musical instrument or another skill that you might not be good at now, but it's something that always intrigued you. You always loved music. Maybe now's the time to pick that up and try it and try to learn that. And obviously with the availability of YouTube, you can learn anything on there. So, maybe it's even throwing out the old curriculum right now, knowing no one's going to be in school till September, and really focusing on something that you enjoy that you never had a chance to do before.
Exactly. Yes. Yep.
A couple comments here. Shannon said in the chat, teaching is hard, and of course, PE even more so because we are marginalized as a subject. So, of course, our negative situations always hold down on us, and then we feel like we're always in that fight turning into the other core subjects. And I know even now in my districts, not so much my school because my teachers have seen what I'm doing, but there's other phys ed teachers in my district that haven't been as much online or in Google Classrooms, and they're seeing pushback from their other colleagues in their building saying, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Because they feel so stressed. So at this point, everything's reaching a real boiling point. And to really relieve that pressure, I think it needs to come from not only us as phys ed teachers, but hopefully from administrators saying, this is not the time for that level of pressure.
Narissa, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you thought about how you could bring your ideas and your concept to your entire staff at your school? and how that might impact the school culture?
In the past, I did bring it to my school, but I took that off my plate this last school year. And what I brought to my school was each person had a green journal, and before PD time, our professional development time, I would have a journal question for them to do, just for something they can reflect upon themselves. For example, like, what are 5 things I can do every single day for myself, or what can I do every single week for myself? And then setting a goal for themselves each month, and then they're able to share with each other and then check in with each other and hold each other accountable. I used to do, and those ladies who've taken this over continue to do this. They do Wednesday wellness. So they send out a wellness newsletter every single Wednesday on different things that they can do, different resources our district has, or maybe just sharing different recipes. So we're trying to continue that. And our principal has been a very good and huge supporter of this, as I think she also understands how much we do need to take care of ourselves.
Awesome.
Yeah, very lucky.
Great.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to share before we let you get back to your family?
No, I thank you for allowing me to come on, and I just encourage everyone who's listening to find that one thing that you can focus on now, that you know that's going to benefit you once we get back kind of into the swing of things. And it might not be for a while until we get there, but create those habits now so you go into your school year your best authentic self. And I also like to just say motion changes emotion. So if you're having that time at home, you're like, what can I do? Move your body really quick, and your mood, you'll notice that your mood changes.
That's great.
Everything we tell our students.
Exactly. Like, we need to tell ourselves that, and we need to follow our own advice.
That's right. And if you'd like to share your email with everybody, you could add that in the chat, or Rich could add it for you, as well as your Twitter handle and everything, so people could stay with you on Twitter. That'd be great.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks so much, Narissa.
Thank
for being
you.
on with us.
Yeah, take care.
Yeah, bye.
Fantastic information there. She looks like she's relatively new to Twitter, but definitely give her a follow on there, because she's somebody who has a lot of experience with that self-care. So she has a lot of resources. Seems like a very personable person, as Brian would know, and I'm sure she'd love to chat with anybody who has the time to shoot her an email. So thank you, Narissa, for coming on tonight.
She actually just recently joined Twitter, and you're right, Chris, she's a very personable person and will always put things into perspective for you. When you think your job isn't going well or none of your classes are going well, she always sees the positive in things and makes you kind of rely on those throughout the toughest times. So yeah, give her a follow, reach out to her if you are ever going through tough times. She's a great one to talk to.
Great. Rich, can we bring Ross and Brad back in, and then
Absolutely.
Have a little more discussion on what we just heard and see some more of Ross's resources, and then we'll call it an evening. Welcome back, Ross. Thank you for waiting.
Yeah, what's up, guys? That was awesome. Narissa, I mean, I just wrote this in our little host chat here, but she gets it, man. That's awesome. And I'm glad she's in front of high schoolers, and that's kind of the last, most likely the last experience that those people have before they go into the real world and kind of have to, provide self-care for themselves, and they're getting that experience through her. So
yes, she's obviously huge into the standard 4F shape, the social personal responsibility, and finding ways to be responsible not only for students but for yourself.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad she's in front of high schoolers, man. Great teacher right there, and just a little bit of time that I had to hear her speak.
And I know we all find probably our outlet in physical activity, whether it be running, exercising, weightlifting, whatever. But I know from the time where I had my children almost 2 years ago now, that all went to the back burner. Everything else had to come first, and it was a go, go, go pace. And now this opportunity to slow down has allowed me to get back into the running and weightlifting that I enjoyed. And that's been able to set the mood differently for myself with them. Obviously when they're taking their nap, I'm not able to nap now, but I'm getting a little extra sleep on either end. So that allows me to then go and do that exercise. and do that weightlifting that I enjoy. And then that's changing my whole mood for the rest of the day. So I don't know, even if it's a teacher during the school day and you have that little break and you're able to get somewhere or do something. I think Christy's here. Hi, Christy. Thanks for tuning in. She talks about taking a walk every day just to break that routine and get your mind right. I think that's huge.
Absolutely.
Hey guys, so I thought I'd jump in here just for a second. You saw Doug Davis made a comment a little earlier, and as you know, you guys know this, but not many people do, but Doug is the owner of the company, Hot Tech Plus. And just to make an announcement, little announcement for as far as our company is concerned, we've been working on a Singulis app, works on the iPhone, and that just was released today for some testing. So next week, we're going to have Corey Mortensen on. He is our director of operations, and he's going to show everybody a little bit about the Singulis app, how it works, and the information that a student collects in that app using the sensor will go directly to our web portal. So the teachers will be able to view that information, and we're really excited about this opportunity because we've been looking for this to happen for a long time. And Doug Davis, our owner, has been supportive of everything we've tried to do. You know, our company, as you guys know, that I always say to teachers that the software and the development of the company is really built by teachers for teachers, because you guys have given us great feedback, great information. And thanks to you, all of you, we've made some great strides. And with Doug's support, we're really getting there, and it's pretty exciting. And Corey's going to come on next week to demonstrate the app and give us a to Z on it. So
that's great. Thank you, Rich and Doug and the whole Heart Tech team for not only doing
thanks,
this for
Rich. Thanks, Doug. Thanks, Corey.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
They're definitely the most willing heart rate monitor company out there to really take the educators' feedback. It seems that all other heart rate monitor companies were possibly designed for other uses, and education is kind of secondary. So once we all found Heart Tech Plus, it was a real relief to see that they took educators into account. They saw our unique situations as a physical education teacher with 30, 40, 70 kids in front of us and said, how can we get the most accurate and reliable data back to these educators so they can then use it? So not only influence and teach the students that they need to do every day, but then continue to promote our programs, turnkey that information to our administrators and our board of eds to then show our work, show our value, which is really now what we're all in need of, is we really have to show our value. So Ross, if you want to talk a little bit about how maybe you used heart rate when you were in the gymnasium in your past teaching experiences and how you enjoyed that, how the students enjoyed that.
Yeah. You know, being able to work with Heart Tech Plus has been a real privilege over the last few years. I used it a lot in my previous school before I made the switch over to my new school now. And I used it a little bit last semester, actually, at the college level too. But my big thing with it was I kept it as something that was a special kind of piece of technology that only my fifth graders got to use because they were the oldest students in my building. And kind of drubbing that up over the years, as they got close to that fifth grade year for themselves, as something that they could get to use that at that time, which was really a cool kind of powerful way for them to kind of get the buy-in that they needed. Because I wasn't allowed in my previous school to say, you have to wear this. And I don't really think I would want to say that to them. They had to opt into using that technology and kind of being really strategic with the way that I kind of rolled it out. Kind of over the years got to 95% of my fifth graders wanted to use this piece of technology in PE.
That's awesome.
So they elected to want to use it. It wasn't me telling them, hey, you have to use this because your grade's tied to this. It wasn't like that at all. It was kind of a completely opposite approach, which I think is really important to be thinking about. We don't want this to be something that the kids see as a burden, because then, the habits that we want them to learn, I don't think are going to be really truly ingrained into them. They're going to be doing it just because for compliance reasons. You want them to be able to experience the joy and the real power of using this technology, because it's going to help them make better connections, I think, to what's going on inside their body in a way that they haven't experienced before. So for me in particular, with my students, I kind of structured like an inquiry-based learning unit, basically around the essential question of how and why our body responds in different ways to different forms of movement and exercise. And that was kind of the question that we kind of explored, and kind of broke it down into like basically a 10 lesson unit over about 5 weeks, since I saw my students twice a week. And it was a really cool unit. We kind of just did some exploration time, when they first came in. Once they got that permission slip back from them that said, hey, my son or daughter can use this. Great. So we give them, their sensor assignment, they strap it on, and the HeartTech system is great. It's just that one button function, boom, press it, it goes on. They have a connection up to the projected board that's shining on my wall, so they can see their heart rate live in real time, and I can see it as well through the iPad that's projected, which is great. And it's, it signals up there in about 2 minutes. I have about for all 28 of my former students to get a connection up there, get them on and get them going. So the first week was really kind of just exploration, letting them kind of explore different things that they can do, and kind of just getting used to wearing it, the routines, putting it on, taking it off, all those kinds of things. And kind of getting to see what their tile does and what it's capable of, and kind of sparking their imagination. And then we kind of dove into that essential question a little bit deeper in the following weeks. And I think it was a really powerful approach that I got to use with them. So it's been a great tool for me in my instruction to get kids to really understand the cognitive side of what goes on inside their body, and why things happen the way they do when we're moving around.
Hey Ross, what's the youngest level you've used them in?
Well, when Chris and I were out in Iowa together, I was at the elementary school there too, while he was at the middle school. And the elementary school, the middle school, and the high school all had heart rate monitors at the time. And the youngest I used them there was with 4th grade. And I wouldn't really recommend using them younger than that. I just don't really see the benefit of it. I think anyone really can come on in and say, hey, wear this and go. And then, if you're just getting the data back from that, a kid might be, showing really great data, but what's the teaching behind it? What's the learning behind it? I think that's not something that you can really see with the data. It's what you do with that data and what you have the kids do with that data where the real power is. So just because those cognitive concepts for me, I think that's a little bit too advanced for, K through 3. I would say 4th grade is really the youngest I would go with it, but that's just kind of my approach to it. And I really believe in that cognitive side of it, and kind of getting to explore that essential question in different ways. So that's kind of how I've used it. But yeah, 4th grade for me is kind of what I tell people. Not that that's right or wrong, but just kind of my approach to it, my philosophy.
I think that sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
See, you're elementary, with me being secondary. Of course, everyone has a different approach, but I have found if my students wear the technology every day, I find it as they see it as a motivational tool. They try to get more minutes one day than they did the day before.
Yeah.
I honestly think it has a lot to do with the type of student you're teaching as well. Because a lot of my students, if there's days I don't have the heart rate monitors out, it's like they feel lost. They don't know what to do without them on. And I think it's cool to see how often even the students who may not be engaged in phys ed, they're the ones that are like discreetly looking up on the wall all class to see if they're in their target zone. But yeah, I try to stick with some key teaching concepts like target heart rate, maximum heart rate, resting heart rate for my students, and try to tie that in. Hey, you had 30 minutes of MVPA today. How's that going to influence your resting heart rate if you keep that up, and so forth? But yeah, I can see how you think anything below 4th grade that might be. Anything below 4th grade would be a little bit challenging cognitively.
Yeah.
Especially, with older technology that Ross and I had used in the gymnasium, and you're talking about chest strap transmission there. anything below 5th grade was almost nightmarish to get on and off in a period basis. So now really switching to the new technology of the optical sensor makes it more feasible at the 4th grade level. And really, like Ross said, I only use that and introduce that through a secure environment of the pacer run, where we do that shuttle run, and that's the only time those kids are wearing it in 4th grade. But I have actually trickled it down because our sensor has the step functionality to it. I trickled it down to 3rd grade, and we do what is a stride? How far do you step? It's about 1.5 feet in 3rd grade, maybe 2 feet in 3rd grade. Then we do a little project based on it, and it's more tailored, like Ross said, where he does that 1 unit of it. So I'll do that 1 unit of step data, and we'll just take it from a purely steps perspective. And then when they get to 4th grade, it's not brand new for them. When it comes to the pacer, they already know that it does steps, and now we kind of take it to the next step. And I know, Ross, that resource that you use is very comprehensive. You have that available for people, correct?
It's on my Teacher Pay Teacher store, and it's a great resource. But I can show you a couple of things that I've used from it. If you want me to share my screen again?
Sure. I mean, what I remember, it's about 80 or 90 slides.
It's like there's 2 parts. I had to break it down into 2 parts because it was just so comprehensive. But there's a couple of like clips of me using it with kids on Twitter. And I'll share my screen again. Rich, can you pop it back up there?
Yeah. Second. Here we are.
Thank you, Narissa. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you, Monica. Thank you, Doug.
We good?
Yeah.
All right, awesome. Let's see. So yeah, this is just kind of this is, I think, one of my later lessons. But the resource that Chris is talking about is this PowerPoint that took me quite a while to kind of tweak and get it to where I wanted it. But it's on my Teacher Pay Teacher store, and I can kind of include that in the link too, just because it was so much work. I'm just not pushing that one out for free. But basically, again, going back to that essential question, how and why our bodies respond differently to different forms of movement. So this is a lesson in particular. My 5th graders started to investigate exercise intensity. So this was a really cool kind of activity. So
Trying to stay in the green zone right now.
Basically, I'm kind of giving them a color to stay in.
Most of us are able to accomplish that, it looks like.
And kind of a target movement that they can try.
Orange and stay in orange.
And get their singular tile up there to get in that color and stay in that color. And kind of made it a class challenge to get a certain percentage of them
Trying to use our jump to do that.
into that color. So you can kind of see.
Red on that screen. There we go.
So you can kind of see the interaction there of how the system kind of works. So it goes from that sensor on their arm to the iPad, which picks up all their sensor data and then kind of transmits that when it's connected to a projector to a large screen so everyone can see it in real time. And it's really powerful in that way. But kind of going to the cognitive concept a little bit. So I take their data from the web portal that Heart Tech Plus has. So once that class is over, hit stop and save, all that data goes right into the web-based side of things from the app on the iPad. And then you kind of pull that data out and kind of do different things with it. So I kind of pulled the graph for one particular class here. And then the next class after this data was taken, we kind of, as a team, as a class, we kind of broke this down a little bit and kind of analyzed it. So this is kind of showing you like a little worksheet that I've made that kind of goes along with the PowerPoint to kind of get them to see, how there's this, crossover between the things that we're doing in PE with other concepts and other content areas, cross-curricular kind of things. And it kind of goes a little bit into, their lines of thinking, potential reasons as to why jogging, raised this person's heart rate the most. Why do you think that is? Which exercise elevated this person's heart rate the least? Butterfly stretch. Why do you think that was? Right, a potential reason. So it kind of goes into that a little bit. And I kind of put these labels on afterwards to help them with that data kind of analytics piece that we kind of went over together. But then, like I said, in my current school, I have quite a few students that are in, specialized regional program for special needs. And in my last school, actually, I had that same kind of thing. So you can't forget about those students. So making modified worksheets and kind of making sure you're accommodating for IEP goals and modifications on there and their 504 plans too. So kind of just simplifying these things with shapes and kind of getting them to compare, the square to the square, the triangle to the triangle, the circle to the circle, just different things like that. So those are some ways to kind of touch on that cognitive piece. So it's not just, hey, strap it on, go as fast as you can for as long as you can. Oh, great data, that's awesome. But the cognitive things behind it is really, from my philosophy and my approach, are things that, I think are really valuable, and things that I've seen work in the past. So yeah, just a couple examples.
Now with the platform of Google Classrooms and pretty much everyone across the country going to some form of one-to-one technology, something like that you provided could be pushed straight through to the Google Classrooms, and students can respond now outside of your phys ed time, and they can give that feedback right to you. And that's what I hope to do going back into the gymnasium, is still utilize that Google Classroom feature and just really enhance my gymnasium teaching and support it with the data I'm going to receive directly back from students through the online platform as well.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, I like that idea, Chris, with the collaboration with the Google Classroom for sure.
And I know.
Yeah, one thing I've done is I started posting weekly reflections through the use of a Google form, like Ross mentioned, and they take their weekly heart rate monitor report, and there's like 7 or 8 reflection questions they need to answer based on the data they see in their weekly report.
And I know my middle school, I sent my hard tech system up to my middle school this past, it was probably the month of December, November, December, and their science classes were going into the heart and exploring what the heart does, how it works, and they actually needed numbers. They wanted some resting heart rate, they wanted some max heart rate. So it was another experience to really get that cross-curricular integration. And you had phys ed teachers working with the science teachers to get them that data straight from our web portal. And it was really a game changer as far as getting useful, accurate, and objective data for those students, and then relaying it right back to their science teacher.
Yes.
We have welcome Brian. I know Brian was in a couple weeks ago with us. Thank you for coming back and listening tonight.
Yes. Well, guys, I got a couple of housekeeping issues to take care of, and then we can have some closing remarks. Number one, if anyone is interested in getting some professional development credit for for listening tonight, just make sure you email me that request, and I'll get a form out to you right away. And also, if you did put your email in the chat, then we'll put you in the drawing for a Sensor 2.0, and I'll email you to get the address. And finally, from our standpoint, I'm really looking forward to next week when Corey's going to share with you the app that is on the iPhone that connects to our sensor, and the student can log in, collect the data, and then when they complete the workout, he can send that data directly to our web portal. So it'll be accessible for him to see at any time, because he'll be able to log in and see that data. And you as a teacher will also be able to view the data. So that's something that we've been working on for quite a while, and we're pretty excited about the fact that it's going to come to fruition here down the road. So that's a big week for us next week. So tune in and view that. Corey going over that with you. So guys, I really appreciate everything you have done for us. And Chris, and you guys want to give some closing comments, would be great.
Sure. I just want to thank Ross and Narissa tremendously for coming on tonight and taking your time out to share with us.
Thank you both.
Yeah. Just
Thank you both.
Fantastic information.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you. And of course, if you're listening to this after the live broadcast, or you're listening to any of the old episodes, there's 4 now. All of them could be PD hours. Rich can send you a different certificate for each one. If it's an hour and a half long, it would be 1.5 hours for PD. So, feel free to email Rich anytime you've listened and he'll get that certificate to you. And I think next week, in addition to Corey, we hope to have the Director of Health and Physical Education from Jeffco Public Schools, which is Mr. David Yankee, to come on and share his experience from the administration end. So he'll be one of the first administrators we have on that'll come in to talk to us about his district and how they're doing as a whole. And then we have a couple more episodes lined up for weeks after that with guests already ready to go. So we hope to really bring some innovative things here just for your consumption to think about and get you ready for going back to school in September.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah, thank you.
See you later.
Good night, everybody. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.